Hello, we are back. Thank you for joining me today. Our subject would be how to paint a fantasy setting, fantasy tree, and fantasy floating tree. So I'm repurposing and reusing a canvas panel. It's 9 by 12. We'll be using mainly bright purple, some blue colors, pinks, maybe some red, since it's like a fantasy setting that we're trying to create. So this is a opera rose, and then this one would be the brilliant purple, and then the turquoise. I have different brands, so don't worry about it. Whatever color you have, usually the pastels colors is best for the theme that we're trying to create, the fantasy setting. So if you have any kind of pastels color, use those. So for our sky section, I'll be using the rose and the titanium white. Just mix them, and a little bit of the brilliant purple. So let's just mix them in there. So to me, a fantasy is pinkish purple, you know. So I'm just creating the sky section. So I'm using a filbert brush, number 1. So as you can see, I'm just kind of back and forth, back and forth. So I'm creating that like a cloud kind of texture or pattern effect. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's just a random, like back and forth, back and forth. So I'm just mixing the titanium white, pink rose, and the purple, bright purple. I like to use the dark corner. So I'll be using the bright purple and the turquoise, just in that section in there. So not so much, just that part of the section. And I don't really want to use most of those turquoise colors, so I'm just wiping my brush. So we're going to create or paint the whole panel with the same colors. So I'm just reloading some titanium white. More of the rosa. This is from Winsor & Newton. And the brilliant purple. So I like my light source maybe somewhere here. So that would be my probably all of the titanium white. And then outside of that would be a little hint of the rosa. So just like that. And this corner in here, I want it more purple. So I'm trying to do like the farthest would be the dark. So I'm adding just a hint of turquoise in there, just a small amount. Nothing special, just a little bit hint in there. So I'm trying to blend that light color to the section with the color. This section in here would be our light. It can be a moon. We can add a moon in there later on. Or sun. It's up to you. I would like to do the moon setting in there. Alright, we're just adding those in there, just the purple. So, this is very simple for beginners only tutorial, so just rub back and forth, rub back and forth. So I'm trying to add colors in the wax paper. I'm just using a wax paper as my palette. So just a small amount at a time so I don't use too much and waste paint. I don't like to waste paint. Though my paint are not expensive, they are very inexpensive and affordable. Still, I like to save some money, and I don't want to waste it. That's why I keep reloading if I need the color. So acrylic pretty much really dries really quick. But some, like in this section in here, we added like a load of paint. It might take a while to dry. Usually acrylic dries pretty instant. Right, I'm switching my brush. So this is our background to our fantasy land that we are, or fantasy floating tree land. You'll see what I'm talking about later on. I'm just looking for a slant brush. I like to use the slant brush, you know. For the floating earth or island, I will be using the burnt umber. Some of the raw umber. And to make it really pop, I'll be using also the marsh black for the tree itself. Again, you don't need to use black. If you want to use just a brown, whatever brown you have, that will work. Right, I have these three colors that we'll be using for the floating island that we are going to create. So I will be adding the floating island there. So since our light is in here, say our floating island would be here. I like to do it that way. Okay. So the back of my island, I'm going to use that marsh black to show that I have a shadow in there. And then the burnt umber would be on the front of my island. And then the raw umber would be in the middle of our island. So that's our island. It's a floating island. We can add waterfalls in there later on, and then some clouds. Okay, let's extend the island a little bit. Okay, so let's wait on that island. I'm switching a brush to my detailed brush for the tree. I'll be using the marsh black. So I'm just mixing that marsh black. So I want my tree going this way. And the roots. And I want those roots kind of hanging. So let's extend that roots. Be very careful. The paint, some of them are still wet. So it's okay. I don't mind getting mushy with paint. So if you're just doing it, you're not recording, again, you can, as I always say, you can dry the background first, so you don't need to worry with sticking it in your finger. So this is our floating tree or floating island. Okay. And don't forget to add your highlight, of course. You can use the titanium white. Remember, this is our light source, so this side in here will be the your highlight. So just this side and this side in here is the highlight, and in here. So the rest of them are, leave it black. And I like to add some of those. If you notice, if you've been following me painting, I like to add usually a turquoise to my trees to portray a moss in the trunks. For some reason, it adds character. And later on, we can add the leaves. So I would like to also add some greenery or moss in my um, floating islands. So just, not a lot, just a small amount. Let's do that. All right. And then I would like to add my waterfall. So I'm pretending, oh, I have a waterfall in here. And then it is dropping. It's dropping there. So since it's a water, since it's a water, we can add some bluish. I have that turquoise blue already, so I'm just kind of mixing it a little bit. So that's my waterfall that just dropped in there. So remember, this is a fantasy setting, so you can do whatever you like. So I have some in there. So the water is coming from our tree. Interesting, is it? That's why it is called fantasy. You can create whatever you like. So that's our water. Let's zoom out to see what it looks. And you can add, depends on how many floating islands you like. So add as much floating islands. You can make your waterfall bigger, darker. So sky's the limit. That's the good thing with the fantasy. You can just do whatever you feel. And you can even make your waterfall wave. Since it's a fantasy, maybe there's no gravity in there. So it's up to you, really. Okay, I like to use a filbert brush in my leaves. I'll be using, let's see, green probably. Yeah, let's see if we use the green. It really pops. So I'm going to use this lime green that I got. This is pretty new and I really love it. So I'll be using the turquoise blue for because in making a tree I usually create 3 colors. So for the depth I'm using the turquoise. I'm just dabbing it. So let's focus it again. So I'm just dabbing it for the darkest or our leaves, and then we can add that lime green on the next layer. So any color you feel like using, go ahead and use that. Then I'll be using the lime green on the top of it. So it's very fantasy. Just add those in there. Okay. I'm not really adding in here since the light goes that way. I'll leave that in there. Then I'll just get a titanium white mixed with that lime green in this section since it hit with the light. So I'm just kind of doing a highlight, small highlight in there. And some went through, so I'll be doing highlight here, probably here. So, okay, that would be one of our floating tree or floating island. You can mix more, maybe, of that. I like to mix them or blend them. At least it doesn't look too much of a blah or blob. Okay, that's one of our floating one. So I want to add a farther floating island in there, but it won't be as sharp as this one since it's in the distance. So I'm doing a dry to dry painting, which means my background is dry and whatever small amount that I have in my brush. So just like that. Nothing, no details or sharp details on this specific floating island since it's away. So to be very, very, very careful with how you do it, and make sure you add a very slight white in the edge, so it's kind of like you're losing that edge, so you don't really see the sharpness of that stuff. So I'm also adding a tree, a small tree. So not specific, maybe just, and I don't want to add waterfall in this one, just tiny tree. So if you have gray, use your gray. I'm just adding Mars black, and then I'm doing the, what do you call this one? Titanium white on the top of it. So not details. We don't want details on that one. Okay. Let's do pink. So if my leaves in that one pink, I can use the brown that I have in here, the burnt umber, because it's only a small amount anyways. So again, I'm doing 3 colors or 3 variations. So I'm just adding that brown and then the pink. So I'm adding that pink. I want it sharp. And then I'm adding white on the top. So again, we don't want sharp. So that's in a distant kind of floating. Now we can add one in here if you want. I wanted to do like a regular, probably 3, and then just halfway so it won't be floating. And or we can just make this a floating clouds in here. So it's up to you what you like to do with this. Probably in here I would like to create maybe just a clouds, a small clouds. So I want my clouds to be covering all this waterfall. So just like that. So in our clouds, I like to do circles motion. So in, let's see, this section in here, since it's the dark, our light source going this way, this would be our dark color. So I'm adding marsh black covered with bright purple, and then that turquoise. Doesn't really matter since this is just an imaginary or fantasy cloud. So whatever color cloud you like, I'm just adding that there. So cloud motion is, and it's like a misty cloud. Cloud motion is circle motion. So, and we want some of those clouds are like merging the background because we want it like a misty effect. We don't want it like blob cloud in there. So some clouds in there. If you added too much like what I just did, don't worry about it. We can add more titanium white. So not a big deal. Again, our intention is to blend in the background. It's like a misty cloud setting kind of. So I have some cloud going there. I'm adding a little bit of purple. And some in there. So it's kind of covering it. And I want to extend my waterfall in here. So from there, it covers, the cloud covers my waterfall. And I'm going this way. Ta-da. So if you don't want it going to the bottom, that's fine. It's up to you. Whenever you feel like in your fantasy fantasy setting, floating islands. So I'm just keep adding the misty cloud effect that I want to add on some of these. And also make sure that this section in here, since it get hit, is lighter compared to this section in here. So just pay attention. Keep in mind that they still have a gradient of colors from those clouds. It's not just the same color. So like some in here. So it depends on what you're trying to portray in here. This one in here, this cloud, this specific cloud. If this cloud is behind the island, that's fine. But if that cloud still, the light still hit, it's like on the front of our island, then it will be light, not dark. So this one, I'm trying to portray that this cloud is in front of this one. That's why the light is hitting and this is darker. That makes sense. And the light going here, go there. So just kind of imagine where you're trying to add your pieces together. Then I want just a regular like mountain in here, maybe just a kind of stick up mountain. It's just a mountain, so we just kind of want some of the black, some of the Bertamber and Shannas, and of course the titanium white. And so let's see, there's a mountain sticking out on my clouds, and there's another mountain in there. So this just a regular mountain. It can be floating, maybe in here somewhere in the bottom it's floating, or it's not floating. So it's up to you how you imagine. Maybe just an island. So it's just a regular island. Step back, take a look. How's your setting working? If you are satisfied, not satisfied, add more. Okay, I'm satisfied with my island in here. I want to add more of the clouds. I'm just washing my brush. Maybe another cloud going this way. Misty cloud. All right. I don't want it. I don't want this too. This is too patterned in here. So I'm trying to not create a pattern in there. Okay. And I'm making just a small clouds. Just a hint. So small, tiny clouds. That's on its own. Okay. Right. Either you want all clouds in here, create another island, or make another floating island. So it's up to you. I would like to add another floating island if let's see, if I add floating island in here and I want my tree and I want my waterfall, it would be, I don't really like it. So let's see, maybe here. Let's try putting the island here. Right. I like it here. So this way. Since the source is in here, so mostly it's dark in the back. So just mix your burnt sienna, raw umber, and black all together. So just mix those. You can add some purple if you want. So this one is in the front or force the closest to the viewer. So we're going to have also a details in this one compared to this one that's not details because it's in the farthest back. Okay, we can make it bigger if you want. We can make it double layer. So like that, we can make it double layer. It's like a steps. So we pretend that this one is from here and then it got cracked in time, and now they become almost like a step. And add some blue, of course, just to add some drama. Then the bottom is black to add some depth. So don't forget those black. They are very, very useful. All right, I'm loading titanium white. Take a look, step back. And this is going to be the surface of the floating. And also make sure you don't create a smooth edge. Since this is like a island, floating island, so we don't want a smooth edge because a earth or cracking shows in those edges. If you want to add your waterfall in the front, you can. If you want to add your waterfall in here, you can. I want to add the waterfall here, so we have two waterfalls doing that way. But I'll wait until our paint is dry. So let's do the trees in this one. So I like my tree kind of like leaning and then going back. So I want it this way, going back. It's focused. So this is a dramatic tree. This one here. So the tree wants it to go this way, and then you want it to go that So he has his own personality. And then of course, those roots, don't forget those roots hanging. Those also adds character. So just do that. Then you can add as much branches as you like. So, since this is a drama tree, he wanted to have all the glory and attention. So he likes to have a lot of branches. So he wanted all the attention from the viewer. Like all eyes in me. So I'm adding a lot of branches. Now step back. Take a look. Again, don't forget your highlights. Since the light source is this way, our highlight is on the both sides of our tree. So in here and in here. So just try your hardest to add those highlights. There you go. And then don't forget that mossy. The moss adds colors too. Or you can add the purple instead. Okay. Right, I'm using the filbert brush for our leaves. So we can use yellow, orange, or red for our leaves. I will use the orange since it pops and it's very dramatic. Okay. The brown, I can use the burnt umber again, the brown for the base color of my leaves since it's orange. So just dab. You can use also a different brush to create a different style of your leaves, but my favorite is filbert brush. For some reason I just like this style for my leaves. It makes me happy. Okay, and then I'm mixing the cadmium orange on the, either way you can add it on the top, in the bottom, since the light is going through. So add it as much as whatever. There's no limit to this one. So I'm adding on the top section, I'm adding in the bottom section and the side. And then the last layer would be titanium white and orange. So titanium white and orange. So just add it there. you can do 4 colors, just pure titanium white. The next layer after this one, you can, I usually just use 3 variation or values to my tree. It's enough to show the depth of your leaves. You don't really need to, unless you're really trying to create a detailed creation, then yeah, you might need to use 5 layer of values of different family colors. So, but this is for beginners, so nothing too detailed or specific. All right, we are going to do our waterfall on the orange island. So my waterfall first went here and then it dropped and it went here. And then he said, I'm going this way. I'm going down. The water was like, I don't want to stay there. I want to keep moving down. So I'm just blue to emphasize that it is a water, and then going down and another water, and it went down again. And it flashes. Okay, I want to fix my island. So the island is like that. Okay. Then I want to add that root back. The one in here. I'll add it there. And we can even extend this one here since it was big and it's trying to occupy the other island in here. You can also add highlight on this root, so you can see that there's roots coming in there. This one as well, and this one. And probably we can make it bigger and longer going this way. So it's a huge roots trying to conquer that island. Okay, there you go. There are your 3 floating fantasy setting island, floating trees, and we'll just finish it up with some of the clouds in this section and probably a small some in the upper section as well. So a source light is here, this one in here, so the bottom would be my dark. So I'm just adding the bright purple, a little bit of turquoise, and then the white. Again, I'm just mixing it in circle motion. Some in there, went in there. So it's got some orange on my brush because I used this in the tree leaves, and that's fine. I like it. So I'm just adding that last section for just a pure titanium white. Yes, like that. Some purple, some section. So this motion or this technique also is the same technique to how to paint clouds. It's the same, just a circle motion, and do pay attention with the light source. Some section is darker, some section is lighter, so it's the same concept. So if you're looking for how to paint a cloud, this is one of the way to learn. And I want some in here, some in there. So like a strip of cloud in there. Nothing specific. Just a tiny strip of clouds. And some of them are like blending to the background. Right, these clouds in here are like farther compared to this one, so I'm just like trying to create it like it's merging to our background. So some small ones here, maybe here, going that way. And if you want, you can add some in here too, like a strip of clouds just went there. And just didn't care, just went there. So, just a tiny one. Like, oh, I'm by myself. So, like a smoke of clouds. Some here, some in there. Like almost blend to the background. Okay. And then we can add some clouds in the upper section to complete our setting. Okay, this one in here are like the light went through between these two islands. So the first one, or this side in here would be the light color. And the other ones are darker. The section in here are darker. So just kind of blend that cloud. Pretend there's a cloud in there, and it's just minding on its own. Okay, and there's one in here, trying to kind of almost blend in the background. just a light in this front section, just this one, and that's good enough. Maybe some in here. So whatever I have in my brush, I'm just rubbing it. Pretend that there's small cluster of clouds in there. And I want a small one in the top. There's a small one. And probably here again, I'm trying to kind of blend it to my background since it's like a distant cloud. So when you do a distant subject, make sure it's no details, as much as no details, just almost really almost blending to our background, because we don't want it, because if you look at something and it's in a distance, you can't really see the details, and that's the purpose of just almost blending it to the background. So maybe there's a tiny one in there. This one in here. So we're almost done. Just finishing all these clouds, adding it to the settings of our fantasy island for fantasy floating islands. Probably there's this sticking out island in there, you know, sticking out, minding of its own, maybe there, some island in there, but it's you can barely see it since the clouds is covering it. So you can put some white. Maybe here, some white in there. Okay. There you go, just that island is just peeking in there. Not much, because the clouds are everywhere. Also, this one in here, I want to have the clouds in front of my tree, so I'm just adding something like that. So there's a clouds also in there. So it's clouds everywhere. So there you go, guys, our fantasy setting. Art today. You can add a small one in here, probably is good, just a tiny one. A third of this one would be good if you want to add one. You can also add one in here, a third as well, a small, like on the farthest distant floating island if you want. So you can make a 5-1. Just don't do too much. Maybe here and here would be also a good addition to our fantasy island. And don't forget to sign here. We're signing it here. My brush is dry, so I'm just signing it there. Oops. If it's got water, don't worry about it. You can just rub it and kind of blend it to your painting. That's the only good thing with acrylic. You can blend it, modify it, and layer it again. There's no mistake. So there you go. This is the finished product of our fantasy setting, fantasy floating island. I hope you like it. Don't forget to share, like the video, and tell your friends if they want to learn how to paint a fantasy color, fantasy paintings. This is one of my video that shows that, or if they just want to learn how to paint cloud, there's a lot of clouds in here, so you can learn the techniques. It's the same basic principle on how to create clouds. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for hanging out. I hope you have a good day, and God bless.